Okay. We're ready. So if you want to give a summary, say what we've already done. We are live and recording.
Okay, we're back into the meeting after some technical difficulties. We've called the meeting to order at about 5:32. We've done the roll call, pledge of allegiance, excused absences, agenda approval. We're on to consent agenda, which we have none. Mayoral proclamations, we have none. Public presentation prior notice, we have none. Public presentations not on the, for items not on the agenda. Do we have any hands?
We have a Randy Sweet who has her hand up.
Okay. Randy, can you hear me?
Yes, and that is, I will lower the hand. I must have bumped it by accident.
Oh, so you don't want to say anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Committee and advisory board reports, none. Administrative reports, none. Public hearings, none. Unfinished business, none. On to new business. This will be the second interview with city manager candidates via Zoom. Heidi also. Correct? Okay. And we have a couple addendums to question 14 that Council Member Rojas would like to include. Is that correct, Vivian?
Yeah, yes, excuse me. Yes, but if Rachel would read them, and then if council agrees, we could put them on number 14. But I'll let Rachel go ahead and read that, please.
Okay.
You bet. So Councilmember Rojas would like to add to question 14. What do you see as personal challenges living in a remote community, and how would you adjust to them, if any? As well as, how do you see a day in Soldovia when not at work, and are you good at creating your own entertainment?
Okay, so it's 5:45. Heidi, are you ready?
Do I have a consensus with council that they would agree with adding those to
Oh,
14?
sorry.
I didn't want to push it. I was just asking if council would agree.
I have a question. Is that in lieu of 14?
No, that's with, in addition to. So it'd be a longer question.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody in agreement with that? Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
All righty, Rachel, do you want to take it away?
You bet. I am happy to read the interview questions on behalf of council. And for the second interview, we are having candidates turn their video on for the interviews. So Mrs. Gagel, if you can make that happen, we'll begin, and I'll give the introductions to the interview process. Here she is. Okay, great. Hi, Heidi. Thank you so much for joining the Soldovia City Council and City of Soldovia for the second round of city manager candidate interviews. For the second round of interviews, we're going to have 15 questions with 45 minutes allotted to the questions. I'm going to have a timer set for 30 minutes. So when you hear the timer go off, that means there's 15 minutes remaining. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I don't. Thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, so let me start the timer here. So question 1, please describe your familiarity with Alaska state statutes and how they pertain to first-class cities and their elected officials.
Sure. So the city of Seldovia is a first-class city, and cities and boroughs are governed by Title 29 in the Alaska statutes, which is for the municipal government. That's what the title of Title 29 is called. And we also have our Seldovia Municipal Code here. And so if you can't find a code or ordinance in the Seldovia Municipal Code, then you can look to Alaska statute. If it's in there, then that will help govern what's happening within the municipality. But on top of that, the city can also be stricter and not more lenient than Title 29. And there are also additional statutes in Alaska, the Alaska statute, like Title 15, I think it is, it's for elections. There's one a little bit later on, a title that has more state legislator examples, and really overall, we use Title 29 the most, and that speaks to the powers of first-class cities, second-class cities, home rules, first-class and second-class boroughs. The city of Seldovia is actually a second-class borough, so the borough has the powers of planning, education, and taxes, and then the first-class city has its own powers within that, and it's really laid out in Title 29 fairly easily for people to hopefully be able to utilize that section of the title to help. I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered from running back and forth earlier. Let me apologize and take a minute. Anyways, yes, Title 29 is the municipal government section of Alaska statutes, and that is what the municipality follows to describe the powers and duties of the municipality.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 2. If selected, what steps will you take to minimize the learning curve and becoming Seldovia's next city manager?
Well, I've already been taking these steps regardless of what happens this evening, but there's a lot happening in the city, and as I've been putting it, there's a lot of pots in the fire, so it's a juggling act of trying to keep them all going. We've got a nice grants timeline I'm hoping that will help carry forward the next city manager to see what the really pertinent deadlines and dates are that are upcoming. That we just really can't miss, along with, I just updated we utilize a legislative upcoming legislative list in our shared drive. That's been really helpful to see what's needed in the next coming council meetings. So I just took the liberty over the last couple of days to go through that and the example of last year and made sure to update that list to include everything for the upcoming calendar year through December so far. That's just really deadline driven that we can't miss, so that we have that list. And then of course there's the city calendar list, and that's just really to try to get keep the operations going. On a personal note, I would join the Alaska Association of Municipal Managers and reach out for mentorship and guidance and educational opportunities in that direction. I already am a member of and did recently joined the International City County Management Association. So that's national and international wide. And I did enroll in a leadership development course through that program, through ICMA, through that association. So I just, like I said, continuing to look out for mentorship and education opportunities. If I was offered the position, I would definitely reach out to staff as well as quickly as possible to let them know what was happening in the transition, and then of course post any open positions such as my own to try to get that filled so that we can have as little delay as possible and really just keep this amazing momentum that's been happening over the last several years going forward. Oh, and council members, sorry. Yes, I can't forget about you guys. I'd also want to meet with everybody and just make sure that I know where everybody's wants and direction is for the coming year, that we're all on the same page moving forward. So do that with staff and also with council.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 3. The city does not have professional grant writers on staff. How do you propose to fulfill this important task?
I really think that 2023 is going to be the year of grants. It's that timeline shows an impressive amount of opportunities coming the city's way. So I believe that that's going to be a huge focus for staff, and it's going to require a lot of in-house time and dedication. I know with the upcoming budget cycle, it'd be nice to have some discussion on possibly contracting out some of these opportunities. You know, if we can get somebody on for the next CDBG project, potentially the RAISE grants due February 28th. So I don't know if we have time for that, but we do have some feelers out with the gentleman who helped us in the previous year with some of the planning for Jack Loft. So hopefully he'll be able to step in and help us continue with a new submission for that RAISE grant for the regional network of Jack Loft and the Seldovia Small Boat Harbor. But really, it's going to be all hands on deck, utilizing all resources that we have. AML did last year, they offered some grant writing services or help through their program, the Alaska Municipal League. So I would reach out to them as well and just make that a really strong focus that that we you know, put a lot of our staff time and effort to.
Okay, question number 4. Describe a situation where you had to deal with a difficult person.
Well, this has happened a few times, unfortunately. Typically it happens when somebody comes into the office because they're not happy. You know, we provide services to the community and not everybody is always happy with the services they receive. And even though we really strive hard to make sure that we're being consistent and fair and providing a good service to everybody, but it does happen. And typically in my office, I am the front person when that happens, even though we have somebody who sits out front. A lot of times I will step in and take over that conversation and make sure I'm there with, you know, a smile or at least a neutral look on my face, a lot of nodding, a lot of just really trying to understand the problem. I've learned over years, even before this job and past jobs and difficult situations, that most often in these situations, people just really want to be heard. It's a problem. It's their problem. They just need to express it. If you're not shutting them down and you're willing to be there and listen, most of the time that's enough to appease them until you can get them an answer. Maybe you have it right then. It's great if you do. It may not be the answer that they like, but feeling heard really goes a long ways. Feeling respected makes a big difference. And so in that situation, like I said, I have just presented a cordial front, listened through it, let them know I would get back to them, take notes, and then, you know, wish them a good day, have them go on their way, and then make sure to follow up. That's a really big part of it. Make sure to follow up with them in an appropriate timeline with the answers that you have. I have found in most cases what they have to say, they have a point. I've really learned that there's, you know, it can be difficult to hear that something's going wrong or not going right, or that something needs to change. But often when somebody is in that kind of a pickle or a situation, it's because we do need to listen. If it was a situation where they were just unreasonable and irate, we do have a zero tolerance policy, and I'm comfortable with pointing to the sign and saying, hey, this isn't going to be tolerated. We need to handle this in a different manner, or when you can come back. But I've never had that experience, because really being able to give the person that time and respect of listening and then getting back to them has been able to solve any issue we've had.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 5. Citizens are very involved in this community and have different perspectives. Have you ever been in a position where 2 people wanted you to take opposite positions on the same subject? Please explain about the subject, and also answer, how did you decide which direction to take and still maintain objectivity and fairness?
Well, I think it's fortunate that I've had the cover in my position as city clerk, because it's my job to be unbiased and impartial. And I would hope that that would carry on into a management position. It's our job as public servants to educate and provide as much information as possible, not to have, to necessarily speak what our opinion is on the matter. I mean, there have been, if it's a staff issue, or there's a case where it directly involves you as a personnel, sure. But in the majority of the time, really, I've been trained that my opinion should be in the voting booth, and I've been fortunate that I do have a little bit of separation. I think that that's an advantage by not living within the city. That means that I don't even have that issue, or not issue, that's not an appropriate word for it, but I don't even have that dilemma where I am voting on, say, sales tax, or who the mayor's going to be, or any of the council members. That's up to the public, and that's up to them to decide. It's our job as staff to implement the policies and the will of the council, and then to follow through and listen to the public and be that conduit between the two bodies. But really, I just take it as a stance as it's my responsibility to educate and to inform, not to provide an opinion. And I think this happens all the time. I mean, it's funny, we did that community survey, and that came back, and one person had said on the survey that they wanted us to not maintain the roads as much because they wanted more potholes so people would slow down and be observant. And then the next person says, you need to maintain the roads more. Everybody, there's always going to be a difference of opinion from small to large. And I just really pride myself on taking that stance that that's the public's right, and we're here to listen, and we can provide as much information as we can. And if we don't have it, we're going to go find it. But it's not my job to, it's not my role to say how people should want to see their community run and governed.
Okay, question 6. A controversial ordinance is presented by council. On a personal level, your position contradicts the proposed ordinance. Please describe how you will proceed with what your council wants and the community wants.
Oh, well, this is the same. There have been things that have come up over the years that I didn't necessarily agree with. Not a lot. I mean, this is a pretty amazing community and council, but it does happen. We're all going to have different opinions. But then again, that's my opinion, and it's not my role to have that. So it's my role to implement it. And whether it's talking about, for instance, harbor parking was a controversial topic. Raising sales tax, controversial. Keeping jackloff, controversial. Or removing it, I should say. Even chief of police, I think that can be a controversial topic. Budget, for the most part, it's not, but afterwards, it can be. And really, I'm going to do my best, whether I support the topic personally or not, to provide as much information as I can and follow through and in a decent timeline to be able to present it to the public and to the council and see that piece through, because that's what I've been asked to do and that's my job. As long as it doesn't go against moral ethics. If it does that, I will be the first to say that I have a problem with it ethically or morally. But like I said, this has been an amazing council and organization to work for, and thankfully I haven't had a lot of that experience.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 7. When you look at a budget, what do you look for that sends red flags and green flags up? Please explain.
Well, we've been learning a lot about this. I've had a lot of experience in it over the last 5 years or so. And as I learn more and more, I really think, we just did this budget amendment, and the biggest thing was that showing where the funds are coming from, even if they're coming from the ending fund balance, that they're being shown up in the document to account for that. But that to me is a pretty big red flag. If you're having to draw from your fund balance to be able to manage your revenue accounts, then there should be an analysis of that and to see what's happening there. So water and sewer fund certainly need to be reevaluated. There was a big rate change a few years ago, and that really helped and made a significant difference. But then there was also a reallocation after that of some of the bigger sources of expenditures, such as audits and insurance. And so that weighs more heavily back onto those accounts. And so just making sure that all of those allocations are appropriate per revenue account. But really, if you're having to draw from that fund balance, that's a big sign. And also being in a deficit. So the general fund now is in a deficit, but which is a red flag. But I would say also tracking back the last 3 or 4 years and seeing that every year there's a slow gain. Harbor as well. It looks like Harbor will be out of a deficit in the next year or year after. Shows that those positive steps have happened, and that's a green flag. Then you look at the boat haul out, which is also, starting to dip and draw from that fund balance. So I think being able to pay attention to those fund balances overall and having a timeline of their increase or decrease over the years, and really account for having enough revenue to cover those expenses is going to be key to keeping a sustainable budget.
Thank you, Heidi. We're on question 8, and we're basically halfway there in the interview. So in this job, every day is different. And even though you have a to-do list for the day, a phone call or email can change everything. How do you take care of the unexpected and still get your other work done?
Well, I'm a list person. I don't know if any of you know that about me, but I run multiple lists on my phone and on my computer, and even handwritten notes. So I found a strategy that works really well for me is that I have my continual list of to-dos throughout the year, as I've mentioned before. But then I also have a method that works pretty well, where at the end of the night, I have a handwritten list throughout the day, and at the end of the night, I will write up the top 3 things for the next day. And then when I come into the next day, things get added, things go. That's always changing. But it really just helps me keep track, because there's constant interruptions. People are always coming in. I want people to feel welcome. I want them to feel like I can take the time to say hello, see how their day is doing, check in with them, that they can feel heard and that there's an open door policy here. That to me is a huge part of the job. And so being able to take that moment and then go back and see where I'm at on my list is really what helps me kind of function throughout my day and prioritize. The list, it goes up and down based on priorities. But I've also learned that having realistic deadlines for those priorities can be really helpful as well. And sometimes putting on your building permit that it's going to take a month to be able to review it is where the reality is with us, the staff that we have. And we try to do as efficient of a job as we can to get things done and moved through. But it's helpful to be able to tell people, a realistic timeline for what they need. I had an individual come in to me the other day and they have a huge request and about access, and they just in a very blunt conversation with me, they're the one that brought it up. They said, I know this can be a 9-month project or longer, but I really want an answer to this. Like, let's work on this. And being able to just have that honesty and integrity and transparency out there, that things take time and we get to them as much as we can, makes a big difference. But, I try to stay on top of it. I really do.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 9. What will you do if you feel an employee is performing at his or her job in a manner you feel is unsatisfactory?
Well, at first I would approach that employee and just check in. I'm a big communicator, as mentioned before. So I do like regular check-ins just to feel people out, see where they are, see if they're tired from pushing snow, see what's going on at home, just making sure that their needs are being met in the first place. And then, bringing up whatever the problem is, where it lies, what the expectations are, and having that first initial conversation. I do think it's important that these types of occurrences are documented, and that you can start out with a friendly conversation and you have those touch-ins and, that open communication, so that hopefully that resolves anything and those expectations are really clearly laid out. But if they're not, then, it's time to have a more formal sit down. And again, making sure that you have at least that documented in the background, just in case there needs to be further follow-up. But then really, you follow a process of hopefully it would never get to that point, but you sit down, you have a meeting. Then if you need to have further direction or education, training opportunities, you have those goals and those expectations laid out, and be able to provide that assistance on how to get there. It's nothing worse than telling somebody they're not doing a good job and not helping them understand where they need to do better. And then making sure that you're, checking in and that they are meeting those needs. And if they're not, having that reiteration, and hopefully it doesn't ever get any more serious, that would require a written direction from the city manager, and potentially could even involve legal. We don't ever want to see it go that way. So I think if you can, just like you can with a member of the public, with a member of staff, trying to meet that whole need, to me, is essential to try first, and then you follow through with the legal steps and ramifications after that, if necessary. But my first goal is to try to make sure that whole person is being met.
Okay, question 10. How are you going to ensure that citizens and or businesses are in compliance with our current city code?
You know, this is a constant, we're constantly working on this. I'm sorry, this is really hard as an interview because I don't know if I should be speaking from somebody outside of the organization, but I'm speaking to you as somebody from inside the organization. So maybe there's too much familiarity with it. So I apologize if that's the case, but it's just what I know. And we often issues with compliance are brought to us by members of the public. And really that's a big part of it because we don't have any compliance officers, enforcement or inspection officers at this point in time. So really it comes down to so-and-so is doing yada, yada. And then you look into it and you're like, yes, they are. So then you end up writing a letter and speaking to that issue and giving a phone call if you need to let them know that that letter is coming on the way and having that conversation of, hey, did you know, this is in code. Right now, we've started a Facebook campaign. Well, we haven't started. We've been doing it since the pandemic. Before that, we didn't have Facebook when I started here. And I think that made it a little harder to reach out to the people. And obviously not everybody is on social media, but I found having those reminders like, hey, if you have a fire hydrant in your neighborhood that needs cleared, not that that's a code, but for instance, one next week will probably be, hey, just a reminder, you can't push snow into the right of way. Or ones we've done, just because snow is on the brain, is you can't park on the road between the hours of 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. between, November 1st and April 30th, if there's more than 4 inches of snow on the ground. So just really giving those regular reminders of expectations of code. Another area where we have kind of faltered in that I've realized over very recently is that not everybody knows where to go for code. So how do we get that message out there? How do we let people know? Signage at the boat ramps is a good start. Signage at the outside beach and RV park. Not that we want to be overly signed up, but we had a council member suggest that we do a one-pager of, hey, this is where you go, or this is what you need to know. Welcome to the city. This is what you need to know when you come here. Your dog licenses, your water, your sewer, your garbage, all of these services, boat haul outs and launches, camping are all provided by the city. So if you need any of these services, reach out to the city for more information. I think just having that education piece really helps ensure the compliance, and then following through. I don't know how many times I've had people say, I'm not asking for special favors, but it's like, we want to make sure that we're consistent with everybody. The same way we handle a water service connection application is going to be the same way we handle it for everybody. And that really helps to show that, again, that integrity of and consistency of following our code and being able to provide it in the code. This is where it is. This is what we're doing. And we're going to try to make it as understandable and painless as possible.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 11, is it more important to focus on city operations or public relations? Please explain. And I wanted to let you know that we're almost at the 30-minute mark.
Okay. Oh, that's a hard one, because it's like the chicken or the egg, right? What comes first, the public or the taxpayer, or the services that are provided to the public and the taxpayer? I really think that they both weigh out probably about the same for me. City operations, probably a little bit heavier because we are a small body, small organization providing services for a larger group. And so what it comes down to it is that's, we're providing services for everybody, not just one individual. And that comes into that consistency and that fairness is making sure that it's that everybody is getting the same amount or appropriate amount of services. Public relations, that's a huge piece that ties into it, and just that education piece and the open door policy and being able to really listen to people, because there have definitely been a few times where I've heard from people that they really had a problem. And when you get down to the crux of it, it fixes something that is happening systemic wide, something that is happening in city operations. So they do go hand in hand, but I'd say city operations overall as a whole, because you're trying to serve the needs of everybody, but really very much ties into public relations, because that's how you know what those needs are that you are or not meeting.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 12. What do you see as the threats and opportunities facing our city?
Oh, aging infrastructure is a huge threat. Keeping large services on smaller populations of people, or wanting the same amount of service for less of a service group. That's a problem or a threat. Opportunities are growing those growing that community, growing the visitors, growing industry. There's always a chance for the community to grow. And I think through marketing and publicity and just overall general good practice, that the city can really promote the community and make it more sustainable and provide that opportunity for people to come in and live and work and visit and be, which only makes the community stronger and helps the community grow. Broadband is a huge opportunity coming. The value added building, I think, is a huge opportunity. I know it's kind of been a sore, but there's definitely renewed interest coming recently through that expression of interest. There's a lot of really great things coming with funding, but it's not always going to be there. So then just that threat then again is making sure that the budget stays sustainable even after this potential growth for however long that's going to carry us through. In the end, making sure that those revenues meet those expenditures and that there's benchmarks for each account for in case of emergency, 2-month benchmarks or however long benchmarks council wants to set, so that there are funds just in case, and so that there are regular maintenance lists for equipment and water, sewer, harbor, jackloff, really having to grow up and step up into that space where we can't just defer things for the future. We really have to plan for how to maintain for the future. And that's both a threat and an opportunity.
That's a great segue into question number 13 of please tell us how you plan to develop economic growth and stability in our community.
Well, I'm a little biased because I love it here, and I'm raising my kids here and they love it here in their school, and I think it's an amazing place to be. And I really just want Seldovia to shine and to show those true colors. I really want us to focus. I would love to see there be more focus on getting that message out there. I know the chamber does a great job. I know individual businesses go out and do their own marketing and things, and we've seen a couple of really good summers. I think that's something that we can continue on, but that is having clean bathrooms and areas to park and services available and garbage picked up and, you know, making sure that we're not letting those little things fall through the crack. Not that those are little things, but other little things necessarily. Bear management, just having that overall image that we're uplifting the community. And we want people to come and want them to come back and want them to stay and want them to have those opportunities to work, like the continuation of Soldovia space. Or if, you know, in the dream that someday the city has more positions available, that's, you know, that's the goal right there, right? It's to bring people in and have them want to be here.
Okay, so we're on to question number 14. And because there's a few components to the question, I'm going to read you the first portion of this question, which is a fully devoted city manager is considered desirable by many citizens. How do you see yourself being involved with the community in and out of the office?
Well, I am a member of the PAC. I am a member of the Booster Club at the school. I volunteer and help out in other community events. I regularly attend craft nights with the Soldovia Village Tribe and other events as they present themselves throughout the community. This is my home and this is where I work, and I enjoy having those opportunities to reach out and connect to the other individuals of my community. And I don't see that changing in the future. It's, you know, it can be interesting trying to establish boundaries at the grocery store. And for the most part, you know, people ask a simple question, work related, and that's not a problem. But I've found that most people are pretty respectful of, oh, we'll talk about this at work, and that's great. And I don't even mind, like I said, saying a few minutes, talking about it a few minutes, just as long as people feel welcome and they know they can approach you the next day from 8 to 5, that's great. And then I continue on being a part of the community as a citizen and somebody living and growing here. And I think that that's where you learn what you need to know, is at the ground level.
And then to add to this question, what do you see as personal challenges living in a remote community, and how would you adjust to them, if any? As well as, how do you see a day in Soldovia when not at work, and are you good at creating your own entertainment?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part of that again?
You bet. What do you see as personal challenges living in a remote community, and how would you adjust to them, if any?
Personal challenges for me, it's having to take my kids to the dentist, take them to a medical appointment, depending on the day or the type of appointment. Groceries, sometimes availability of items that my house needs that aren't necessarily available here in town, but I'm pretty well versed in those challenges, and I realize that it costs just a little bit extra to live in this extra place, and it's I don't find it as a challenge that is gonna be a detriment to myself or this position or organization in any way.
And then how do you see a
And then-
day in sorry.
No, sorry, you go.
How do you see a day in Soldovia when not at work? And are you good at creating your own entertainment?
Absolutely. I love the beach. Love taking my kids to walk, dogs. Love to go to sit down at a local restaurant and have a nice lunch or dinner. I love to garden. I have a big garden at my house that's just expanded, or is expanding, I should say, next spring. So, you know, that's what we do. We take bike rides downtown and we stop by the ice cream shop on Saturdays. My family does a dump run every other Saturday, and that's our family date. So really, this is what we love about it. I tell people when they want to come to Soldovia to visit me, that they absolutely should, but not if they're expecting entertainment and not if they're expecting to go to the movies or go bowling or anything grand. They need to come because they want to walk on the beach and they want to sit and read and they want to play in the dirt and they want to take a hike up into the mountains or go kayaking. And they, you know, they want to be able to reach out into the environment and express themselves in that way. That's why we live here.
Thank you, Heidi. And we're on our last question here, question number 15. What do you see as key components to a sustainable city budget?
Well, I think we've touched on this before, but really that sustainability is, I hate to keep coming back to it, but the revenues meeting your expenditures, being able to see that growth, that those benchmarks are being made, and really planning. If I couldn't stress anything more, planning for maintenance and upkeep of infrastructure and equipment. We are seeing what happens when we don't have that long-term vision. I'm really hoping going forward that the city can really have that focus on what does the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years look like, because there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of positivity in the steps that were just made, that have been made over the last 5, 10 years. So seeing that carried forward and that continual growth is, I think that Soldovia's got a great future ahead of itself.
Thank you, Heidi. Well, that concludes the questions that we have for the second round of interviews, and I'm sure we will be in touch with you soon to let you know next steps.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, everybody, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you, Rachel, for the questions. Okay, our next person is John Pree at 6:40, so we have a couple minutes.
Hey there, Chair Sweat and Council. It looks like we do have Mr. Pre in attendance, and Radsey, I'm sure you're already on it, but can you promote him to panelist?
Done.
Okay, we'll be going back in to our meeting with the second interview, of Mr. John Pre.
Hi there,
Rachel?
John.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello.
Thank you so much again for joining us for the second round of interviews for the city manager position at the city of Soldovia. I'm going to move forward with presenting the questions to you like we did the first round, where we have 15 interview questions this time with an allotted 45 minutes. And so if you don't have any further questions, I'll begin posing those questions to you, and then we'll set a timer that will go off when there's 30 minutes have passed. So that way you know when where we're at with the timing of things. Does that sound okay?
Sure. And what's the total time again? Did you say 45 minutes?
45 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So John, our first question here is, please describe your familiarity with Alaska state statutes and how they pertain to first-class cities and their elected officials.
Well, the statutes set the guidelines for, what becomes a city and what the parameters are and what is needed to become a first-class city or any other designation. Now, I have not, quite frankly, dug very deeply into that, but I do know that the city itself of Soldovia has worked very hard. And when they moved from a second-class city to a first-class city, that it was an important step for them. And this is something that I will certainly, become stronger with and continue on my journey to work to maintain those things. I know the council is very proud of that, and I think that's an important thing for the city council and the community to maintain that status so that we can continue to provide the services that we do from here forward.
Thank you, John. Question number 2. If selected, what steps will you take to minimize the learning curve in becoming Soldovia's next city manager?
Well, first and foremost is to keep close to the people that are running the city and that represent the community. So it's taking the time to meet with all of the council members, to spend time with them, to learn what their particular projects are and the things that they have passion for, and work closely with the employees of the city that are currently there to gain from their knowledge. I think, as with this and all things, it's going to be a team effort for sure, and it's everybody coming together with their collective knowledge to be successful in this. And the last part is to get out in the community and to meet the individuals, to put a face to my name, and most importantly a face to theirs, and meet them and interact with the community so that they understand that it's an open door and easy person to get in touch with and interact with. And like I said before, all of us working together will make this a successful, quick transition.
Okay, question number 3. The city does not have professional grant writers on staff. How do you propose to fulfill this important task?
I can do that myself. I've been very blessed over my over 26-year career in municipal governments and quite frankly, and I haven't been shy about it. The first one I wrote was absolutely by force. I dreaded it and I feared it, and I learned a lot from it. And over those past 26 years, I've just off the top of figuring out how many have been part of over 15 different projects, totaling over $7 million to our communities to benefit them. I can do that. I can be the grant writer, but most importantly, I think, is I can teach others to do that. I've been very successful at that. And I gained great success and I great satisfaction over the success of the people who have worked with those that I've taught and have been successful today with them.
So good transition into the next question. Question number 4, describe a situation where you have had to deal with a difficult person.
Well, in my profession, I seem to come across that, as a law enforcement supervisor and member of the community itself. People are comfortable with me, and not everybody likes the message that they're getting. They don't like the answers that they get. And the important thing, and this is what I impress on the people that I work with too, and what I espouse daily, is it's not necessarily the message, it's how it's delivered. And people like to have information. They like to be informed. They like to know why. And so when you start with the why, and even if it's oftentimes, things that people don't want to hear, you start with the why, explain the situation, try to work towards a reasonable solution. We'll get through those. And I think that's important. Let people be heard and try to come together for a reasonable solution that everybody can work with. And those are the things that I stand by. And at times you just have to make a stance, and you may not be able to do it. And so it's also very important to be clear about that and to say why. And just let people know that, you will do what you can, but sometimes there's limitations, and when you can't, you can't. And people seem to understand.
Thank you, John. Question number 5. Citizens are very involved in this community and have different perspectives. Have you ever been in a position where 2 people wanted you to take opposite positions on the same subject? Please explain about the subject. How did you decide which direction to take and still maintain objectivity and fairness?
Absolutely, great question. And part of my background is as a Rotary past president. My club was one of the largest in the region, so it was 212 members in this club, a leader of leaders. And when you get that many people together, you're not going to have everybody agree all the time. And so in some cases, there are people that are very passionate about things that are, their projects and things that are important to them. And I have had people on opposite sides of community and civic projects that have, posted, support, and then also, posted opposition to these. And so again, it was to work to better the community, working with both sides, trying to explain. And sometimes there's give and take, and there usually has to be. And so again, it's communication is important. Hearing people, listening to them, listening to what they say, and knowing that they value what it is that they're saying and they're doing. And especially in a community like Seldovia, it's with a small, close-knit community, it's so important that people be heard, and we provide the opportunity for everyone to have a voice. And I know the council values that, and the decisions they make are for the betterment of the community, and not everyone will be happy with those. Communication is key.
Thank you, John. Question number 6. A controversial ordinance is presented by council. On a personal level, your position contradicts the proposed ordinance. Please describe how you will proceed with what your council wants and the community wants.
Well, the council represents the community, and so it's my job and my role as city manager to make those things happen. So I think in any case, such as what you're talking about, if there's a difference of opinion, I think privately it's important to share just a concern, if there are any. Say here, and present them. Here's the concern. But at the end of the day, it's important to, and like I said, my role is to reflect the council's wishes, which represents the community. And so at the end of the day, it's what the council wants and the community wants. And so that's what I will make happen. And I will support those decisions, whatever they may be, just as if they were my own. And it's not one that's, supported publicly and opposed privately. It's no, okay, this is the direction. The council has the background, and they know the issues, they know the community, and I think it's important that the focus be on okay, well, how do we make this happen? And so that's what my focus would be, to support the decision as if it was my own and find the solutions to make it happen.
Question number 7. When you look at a budget, what do you look for that sends red flags and green flags up? Please explain.
Well, in looking at budgets and looking at particularly, I've spent a lot of time looking at the Seldovia budget. First and foremost is that you work towards a balanced budget. That's the first thing that I look for, and try to identify where there's deficits. Now, in looking at the current budget, I noticed that there was a lot of, there were many changes in categories that just moved positions. So take fuel and electricity, power costs, those were moved to administration. And so I would look for, the red flags to me were, the large differences in budget from one year to another. Okay, why is this? Well, and then you follow it and you find the explanation for it. Okay, here it's been moved over here. All right, good. So the green flags are when we are able to, like, say, there's a revenue that was not expected. You have an increased revenue. All right, what was the cause of that? And looking at that revenue stream and seeing what happened, if there's a way to identify that and analyze that to continue on those paths so that we can continue generating positive revenue for the community and help to support the operations of the city and make the goals of the community and the citizens be realized.
Okay, question number 8, and we're about halfway there, John. In this job, every day is different. And even though you have a to-do list for the day, a phone call or email can change everything. How do you take care of the unexpected and still get your other work done?
I have an entire career of getting my cheese moved, if you will. Priorities change, and they change quickly. I mean, over my career, I've had several changes where I get a call one day, things are going great and where I'm at, and the next, that day I get a call, hey, we need you to go over here. And in an immediate transfer into something else. I think I had mentioned and listed in my resume about leading in dispatch. That was a huge one because it had never been done before. And when asked, when do you want to do this? Well, let's do it tomorrow. So that next day, I went in there and I started working, completely changing everything. While as that's going, I was handed a grant that we needed to get. Put officers back in our middle schools. And so while doing one job, I was having to do another one. And it's an issue of time management. And that's something that I'm very good at, managing my time, finding those blocks to get things done, piecing it out so it can be done. And when you have things that come up, you go deal with them, get those pushed aside, get that solved, and come back to where you were. So it's about time management, utilizing your resources around you, and quite frankly, surrounding yourself with good people.
Thank you, John. Question number 9. What will you do if you feel an employee is performing at his or her job in a manner you feel is unsatisfactory?
I think, and it's what I do right now is that first and foremost, you reach out to the employee, you sit down and you talk with them. You ask them how things are going, because there may be things that are going on in their lives that we are not aware of. And I value our employees. I value what they do because they're the lifeblood of what makes the city go and makes things happen. And so it's important to start there. Start with that. see what's going on, see what's happening, see if there's some adjustments that can be made. If there is something that's going on that maybe I don't know about or we don't know about, then it's important to start with the person. After that, if it's none of those, then it's time to just address the issue and ask them, okay, and maybe there's a reason, maybe there's something else outside of a personal problem or something that's going on. Talk with the employee and just make it very clear, you know, and ask, inquire, have them be part of the solution, and you know, empower them. Okay, how are we going to improve this? Get buy-in from the employee to set their own chart and their own pace and their own path, and get that back in line where it needs to be. And it could be very easy things. Maybe they're not happy with their job. Maybe there's something about it that is just troubling that can be fixed very easily. And so it's important to take a holistic view of it, look at it, and at the end of the day, you know, identify what the issues are, discuss them with the employee, and work to find a resolution and to encourage them and mentor them and help get them on the right path.
Okay, we're now on to question number 10. How are you going to ensure that citizens and or businesses are in compliance with our current city code?
You know, part of that is in code compliance is checking and looking to see if there are things that are out of place. You know, oftentimes city codes can be so deep that you don't always know about something. And maybe, you know, there's an educational time that needs to happen to where you can, you know, work with them. If you notice a discrepancy or deficiency that's there, work with them, you know, work with the business owner or the citizen, educate them first. Oftentimes people don't know. And it's amazing what that knowledge will do, you know, when people learn that it's, you know, what they're doing is wrong. They can't do that. And then not just presenting them with a problem, here's the solution. This is what we need to do to bring you into compliance. Again, communication is key, especially in a close, tight-knit community. The last thing that you want or you're going to have is just cutting off your ties with that community by, you know, being abrupt. It's having that welcoming, having that set up, as I've talked about before, having an open door, having that communication available, so that you know, when you do go out, if you notice something or that there's an issue or there's something that needs to be fixed, you can communicate that, work on that together, provide them with a solution that they need to have, and then follow up later as necessary.
Thank you, John. Question number 11. Is it more important to focus on city operations or public relations? Please explain.
You know, city operations their public relations are part of that. In a close-knit community, I think we need to focus on those public relations and have those, because everybody has a vested interest in that community, in the success of the community. So with their success of the operation, you have success with the community members. So I think those relationships with them, not just the people that live there, but the businesses that are there, the neighboring, you know, corporations, the working with all of the entities that are around to keep those relationships going. And it's not just on that level. That's just a very, you know, surface approach to it. You also have, you know, the work with our legislators that you need to have that relationship with. Without that, I mean, the success of, you know, the city getting the recent funds through the budget, I don't think would have been there. But it's because of those relationships that were established, and because of that work that was done, those things happen. Those are things that we need to continue. Those public relations we need to continue with, because through that, our operations run much better.
Thank you, John. Question number 12. What do you see as the threats and opportunities facing our city?
The threats and looking at what is needed. Thankfully, we have some resolution for the infrastructure repairs that need to be done. The biggest threat to us right now that I can see I've also noticed that that is, one of the main priorities for the council for 2022 is the improving the finances of the city. That's also a threat with the need to figure out new revenue streams, maybe areas that we can trim in the budget, things that we can do to help strengthen that. Because after that, we have, there's issues with the Jackaloff dock that need to be addressed soon. And before those become major liabilities, there's equipment needs that we need to address. And we can work on these a little bit at a time. We can work on these through grants and through exploring some of this different funding that's available through private companies. And so, when we look at the finances, that's the biggest thing, to strengthen our hold and our future with the holdings that are there and what we have. And then we start looking at things such as the dock that needs to be addressed, and some of the aging structures that we have, and some of the buildings that are not being used, how we better draw businesses into those to try to create greater revenue stream and opportunity for our community. I think those are, very briefly, two of the biggest things. Is working to, the council has identified the opportunities that are there, and they've talked about that, and some of those threats have been there. And so we look to increase all of that and make it better, and push the views and the vision of the council forward.
Now on to question number 13. Please tell us how you plan to develop economic growth and stability in our community.
I think you're going to get that through how we go about doing business. So there's partnerships that can be done with the university, and though over 20 years of teaching at the college level, I'm very comfortable and familiar with working with with these institutions. Because through some of their students in the marketing programs, they can help us market Seldovia. They can do it as projects. They can do these to help get the word out to people to come and visit. We have people that come through the Marine Highway that come and visit. You have in the summer, you have the transient, not transients as in homeless, but you have the transient population that comes through, for sport fishing and others. So we capitalize on some of the gems that we have in Seldovia. We work on that. We go outside a little bit and look to utilizing the resources. And just one example is of the college to try to get that. The thing that I would want to stay away from, I think everybody there's kind of had their fill with taxes. And I see some of the highest tax rates in the state. Well, we get that so that we can maintain the things that we have. And I understand that. And I think raising taxes, while that's a quick thing that people would go to, I think that's the last thing that I would present is something of that matter. But I think it's exploring the opportunities that are there. How do we, bring in some of these other industries? How do we utilize our airstrip better to help, reach some of the other communities around us? And how do we bring Seldovia as a place where people want to come and visit, come and shop, recreate, utilize the resources that are around us, and go from there? And I think those are the areas that I would look at to increase the revenue and to try to draw in other businesses.
Thank you, John. So we're now on to question number 14, and this question has a few components to it. So I'll read you the first one. A fully devoted city manager is considered desirable by many citizens. How do you see yourself being involved with the community in and out of the office?
I will be a member of that community. I think there's so many great things about a small community. What's going on, what's happening in that community. and to support those activities by going to, school productions or other events that are happening, and being present in that is so important, because, that goes along with the open door policy of having an open interaction dialogue with people. So I will immerse myself not only in the workings of the city, but, in the different hats that I may wear, but also enjoying the successes that the other people have there. And, when you go and you participate in that and you see that, and I feel that, once others see that you are celebrating their successes or their gifts, that, they embrace that and you become a greater part of that community.
Okay, second portion of the question. What do you see as personal challenges living in a remote community, and how would you adjust to them, if any?
Well, as a child, I spent some time living in a very, very remote lifestyle. It was quite the day that came along when we actually had plumbing and running water, the other things. So I'm familiar with, small communities and small towns and living a rural lifestyle. The challenges for me getting there would be finding where things are at, identifying the resources that are there to help me do my job better, and just building those relationships, because it is starting from scratch. But as somebody who goes out and engages in the community, I don't think that will be a big challenge. It'll just be a matter of time, and we'll be able to make that a success. As I go through the basic needs for me, obviously, or I'll need to find some housing and work on that. But the integration into the community, I think, is going to be fairly seamless, and I think it'll be an easy transition for everyone, especially valuing the work of others that I do, and valuing the input and the commitment of the community members. And once they see my commitment to the community, I think that everything will work very well.
And last portion to the question, how do you see a day in Seldovia when not at work? And are you good at creating your own entertainment?
Seldovia has so many amazing qualities and opportunities that are around it. I like anything with the outdoors, and there's plenty of that there, but there's also something to be said for the pace and the interaction with the community. I like the opportunity of a slower pace. I've lived a very rapid pace for a long time, and knowing the benefits of being able to just kind of sit back and enjoy all of the things, the recreational opportunities in Seldovia and the surrounding areas. Before I got into my career, I spent time with Holland America, working with them and out on their vessels. And so I like being on the ocean, and I like hiking. And so I will be using the resources that are around me, enjoy those benefits, and enjoy the great things that the community is providing. And that won't be any problem at all. Outside of that, I do a lot of woodworking. Now, if we're going to call it as it is, there's a lot of sawdust and firewood that comes out of that, but sometimes, we'll get some good projects out of it. But, I just like to occupy my time. I don't like to sit a lot. And, there's so many different things and so many opportunities there. I just look forward to spending time with the people and learning about, the things that they enjoy, and learning about all of the other things that it has to offer.
Thank you, John. And our last question of the evening, number 15. What do you see as key components to a sustainable city budget?
The key components to that, I believe, is interaction, especially with this, is interaction with the council and with the finance people to set up a budget that is workable and livable, and communicating that budget to the department heads and letting them know and letting them see it and be part of it, I think is important. Once people understand, here are the parameters, this is what we have. I think that provides the basis to work from. And it is so important, especially in a time where we face the budgetary challenges that we do, that a penny saved is absolutely a penny earned. When I noticed a difference of $150 in postage for one area that was reduced, I noticed that because people they cared about what happens and what goes on with their budget, to the point of we're working with $150. That showed me great responsibility, great thoughtfulness as to what was going to go into the budget. And I think to maintain and sustain the budget, we need to have all the players that are involved be aware of what they are, be aware of the parameters, and have everybody working together to try to identify new and additional revenue streams so that we can strengthen that. Part of that is going to be grants. We can do a lot of work with grants. We can get a lot of things done with that. And that happens to be an area that I'm very strong in. And so with that, we'll be able to add to our resources to strengthen our infrastructure, to keep those things going so that our budget is less reliant upon other things. We can provide maybe a little growth even, where we can pursue some of the things that the city has not been able to do yet, and push forward with that and try to get our reserves built back up.
Well, thank you so much, John, for participating in our second round of interviews for the city manager position. I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon, and greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you all so much. And I am truly honored and humbled to be sitting here talking with you today. I would have done this in person and come up there, but that's not the way that it worked out. But I sure do appreciate every one of you and all that you do. I know that not one of you holds and wears a single hat in that community or on the council. And, I look forward to the opportunity and hope that this works out so that I can become a member of that team, working alongside you and the other members of the community. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Okay, his interview was supposed to last about another 10 minutes. Do we just want to continue or do we want to take a break? Continue, okay. Moving on to item N, city manager's report. We have none. Informational items not requiring action, none. Executive session. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we move to executive session pursuant to Alaska statute 44.62.310A through C. Matters that tend to prejudice the reputation or character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion. City manager candidate deliberation.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Are we inviting Rachel in? I'm not sure what the motion was.
Sorry, I need to amend that to allow Rachel in the meeting,
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Rachel.
Rachel
Yeah.
Freelander in the meeting.
Yeah, Vivian, the motion was just made to go into executive session.
Okay, great. Okay,
Okay, so, pardon?
you need a second.
We've got a second. And
Need to
yeah.
vote.
yes, so Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick. Aye. Peyton. Aye. Keithley.
Aye.
And an aye for me. Okay,
all right.
so,
I will log out and join back in.
yes, okay, thank you.
Okay,
And
thank you.
just so that I caught that, who was the second?
Me,
Ashley. Okay.
Ashley.
Councilmember Keithley, thank you. Okay.
Okay, now we need a motion to come out of executive session.
I move to come out of executive session with no action taken.
Second. Okay. Do we have to vote, Bobby? Yeah, I think we did that wrong, but go ahead, John. Oh, we gotta wait. She's not here anyway.
Okay, I'm back with you. Okay,
Okay, Vivian, I move to come out of executive session.
okay. Second,
Ashley already seconded, so now we vote.
Okay.
Rojas,
I,
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton.
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
and I'm I also.
and are we waiting for Rachel to join us? Do you know?
She's
Rachel
on,
is here.
she's on.
Oh, she is. Okay, I don't see her.
Rachel, are you there?
Yep, I'm here with you guys.
Yep.
All right, I would like to make a motion. We move to offer John Pree the city manager position with the mayor to negotiate contract terms contingent a thorough background check.
I'll make a second to that.
We'll take a vote here. Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton. Aye. Keithley.
Aye.
And me. Okay. So now we go to council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Harmony,
None.
what? I did. What? Okay.
I'm
what-
first at the top. I'm at the top, Bobby. Hello, I can't hear you, anybody.
Okay, Rojas,
Okay, sorry about that. No comment. Thank you, everyone, for your night. Thanks.
Kennedy,
I don't have any comment other than I'd like to extend my appreciation to Rachel for her efforts to help us get through this process and everybody else here tonight. Thank you.
Swick,
No comment.
Peyton,
No, thank you.
Keithley.
No comment.
Okay, and I want to say the same thank you to Rachel and thanks to everybody else for all your hard work. Although a little confusing, but okay, the next meeting, regular meeting will be held January 9th at 6 p.m. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're
Second.
adjourned.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.